Greetings from the Washington office, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. We wanted to come back to you via our monthly updates on what's going on here in Washington, D.C. and some of the issues that we are currently focused on. One of the big ones that we have, and which is a priority for 2014, of course, is the effort by USDA to revise the dietary guidelines for Americans. This is a priority issue for us to make sure that we work, as we do every 5 years when this issue comes up, to make sure that beef stays on the center of the plate. It is always a challenge given the different groups and different factions that want to fight us and keep us out of the dietary guidelines. But traditionally, we have been very successful given the great research that we have that shows the nutritious value of beef. And that is extremely strong and compelling evidence that we will continue to use to fight to maintain our position within the dietary guidelines. But one thing that we have to consider this year that we have not in the past, and that is the additional wrinkle of sustainability. Throughout some of the public meetings that have been held in regards to the dietary guidelines, several groups have brought up the need to tie anything that is a part of the dietary guidelines to sustainable production. And of course, even though we have done a lot of work as NCBA and sustainability in defining that, the government has not. So it is a portion of this entire debate that even USDA does not really have a firm handle on. And more importantly, as we've talked to policymakers up on Capitol Hill, they also have a lot of concern because they say that the dietary guidelines debate should be based upon nutrition rather than sustainability. And hopefully we will keep that focus on this discussion as it continues to play out through the rest of 2014 as we prepare, prepare for release in early 2015 of the new guidelines. So stay tuned. We will have many opportunities for you to submit comments into this process to make sure your voice is also heard. That's one of several issues that we're working on right now. One that just popped is the proposed rule on redefining the waters of the United States. This is an issue, as you all know, we have been talking about for several years now and we're preparing to see actual words on paper. We finally have that. And even though we do believe that EPA heeded a lot of the concerns that we had, and that has been shown in some of the exemptions that they put in there, overall, we're still very concerned that there are going to be way too many bodies of water that are covered as now being under the jurisdiction of the Clean Water Act and will require permits in order to utilize them in the land around them. And a lot of those features will be on farms and ranches. Now this is over a 300-page document. We are working our way through all the details to make sure that we know exactly the definition of all the bodies of water that we're talking about. And as soon as we get more details on that, we will let you know. It is a proposed rulemaking, so it's open for comment right now. They have given us 90 days in that comment period. We are going to seek an extension because this is just too extensive a document to be able to truly understand it and disseminate it and get it out and have comments returned back to EPA within 90 days. So we will be utilizing a request for additional days and also have our friends on Capitol Hill join us in that. A couple other things that came out of our meeting, our annual convention in Nashville, of course, was the continued work on the proposed rule to allow for the importation of fresh and frozen beef out of Brazil into the United States. And also for a similar proposal being looked at on regionalization in Argentina. Now, as NCBA, we have always been pro-trade. We believe in taking down trade barriers. We believe in basing trade protocol on sound science and the guidelines that have been established by the OIE, the World Organization for Animal Health. However, we do have some concerns that Brazil does not have the manpower, the resources, and the commitment to implement those protocols to make sure they keep us safe from the introduction of foot and mouth disease, knowing that foot and mouth disease can be carried on fresh and frozen product. So we are looking at all the documentation that USDA utilized in formulating this rule to make sure we understand all angles that we're looking at. We have also been working with our own third-party set of risk assessors to make sure that we have as many eyes looking at this as possible. Because as I said, even though we believe in trade, we are not going to put the health of our domestic herd in jeopardy because of this particular rule. We will have comments that we will urge all of you to submit. Comments will be due by April 22nd. Now, I'd also mentioned the Argentina rule. This is a separate rule, but is also looking at regionalization, much like the Brazil rule is. It is not as far along as the Brazil rule, because it's only looking at the risk assessment right now rather than an actual proposal to allow the importation of product. But we are also engaged on that, so we will have a second set of comments that will be due on April the 23rd. So stand by for more information from us on how you can submit those comments and ensure that we have as much volume as possible submitted over to USDA so they understand the concerns that we have as an industry. And finally, one of the ways that you can help work on all of these issues is to attend our annual legislative conference. That's going to be April 8th, 9th, and 10th here in Washington, D.C. We have a great schedule set up. We will have an issues briefing on Tuesday afternoon. We've got Congressman Mike Conaway from Texas who's going to be visiting with us. We also have Gina McCarthy, who is the EPA administrator, who's going to be visiting with us. And then, of course, we have our Outback reception and all the opportunity for you as our members to get up on Capitol Hill and visit with the policymakers. And on top of that, the National Park Service has said that the cherry trees will be at their peak bloom while you're in town. So it will add to the beauty of Washington, D.C., and we definitely urge you to come join us. As always, please give us a call if you need anything here in the D.C. office, and we look forward to seeing you at Legislative Conference.